One, go.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of a brand new season of a brand new show, All Motoring. Now, this show is all about getting to find out the workings of motoring in Kenya, the intricacies, the small details, the relationship between cars and their owners and their driver in Kenya. Now, this being the very first episode, we decided to feature a very special car that was supposed to introduce us and give us proper identity in the world of motoring. Now, this is the Nyayo Pioneer saloon car that was made in the late 80s for Kenyans, by Kenyans. Now, this car is very important because it was supposed to vindicate us as Kenyan petrolheads, as people who are interested in motoring, and it was supposed to put us out there in the map and enable us to join the league of car manufacturing countries. Countries like Germany, countries like England, countries like the United States. This was supposed to take us there. You see, back when the world was black and white, in 1983 to be specific, the president of Kenya then, Daniel Moi, woke up one day with an idea, a brilliant, expensive idea. He thought that time had come for Kenya to join those countries with prestigious motoring pedigree in the manufacture of motor vehicles. In 1986, therefore, Daniel Moi made a political declaration to the Kenyans that Kenya was going to join the league of car manufacturing countries in the world. And from that point, it took about 2 years to process all the plans, to make all the plans and come up with something solid that they did, bringing together the brains from the University of Nairobi, Kenya Polytechnic by then, which is now the Technical University of Kenya, and the Department of Defense. Now, the Department of Defense, you might ask the usefulness or their purpose in this project. As you know, they had massive fleets of motor vehicles, massive fleets of lorries, so they had a bit of motoring knowledge to put to the table and to help to actualize something like this. All of those parties were to implement what they came up with here at the Kenya Railways workshops. And the reason for this is that during that time, Kenya Railways boasted some of the best manufacturing facilities, not only in the region, but the whole of Africa. And this is what they came up with. A first in Africa, a car that was supposed to take on foreign imports that were making rapid entry to the Kenyan market. Cars like the Ford Escorts, the Datsun 120Ys, the Toyota K30s. So had they succeeded? Had they created something that was worth to compete with cars from those big companies? Let's find out. The engine in this car, by that time, by the late 80s and early 90s, had to be relevant, because if you look at the cars that were in the class same as this, you have something like the Ford Escort, Toyota K30, Datsun 120Y. They had been built by companies that had massively progressed. So the guys at Kenya Railways and Machining Complex had to install a relevant engine. What am I talking about? This particular engine was custom made in Kenya, bespoke for this car. It's a 1.3 liter, or if you like, 1300cc petrol engine, and it was all done locally. All the metal forming processes you could think of, like casting, forging and shaping, were all done by engineers at Kenya Railways. In fact, the only components that weren't locally made were the carburetor and the distributor. It produced around 55 horsepower, a perfect number to mix and mingle with the competition. You had the Datsun 120Y produced around 68 horsepower. Toyota K30 produced less than a car made in Kenya. The Toyota K30 had produced around 54 horses of power. And only the Ford Escort. The Ford Escort by that time is the only car that was maybe massively superior to this in terms of power. The Ford Escort had around 80 to 90 horses of power. So this car was quite comfortable by that time to mingle with the competition. That engine was married together with a 4-speed manual gearbox that transmitted the drive to the rear wheels, putting the car in very special company of great rear-wheel drive cars like Jaguars, BMWs, etc., etc. So far so good. The Pioneer seems like it's holding its own and it's right at home with the competition. So let's see how it was in the inside. Now in the inside, it's quite a bit retro in here. You get to feel like you're back in the 90s, late 80s. I mean, you get this decently done half iron, half Rexin steering wheel that is not adjustable, by the way, so has one driving position. You also get this wooden fine finish and feels like hardwood dashboard. That's quite impressive, by the way. This sort of superb workmanship that made this. You also get a watch, an analog watch. How classic is that? And this, the most impressive thing by far in this dashboard is the glove box. You could fit all your dreams and your hopes and dreams in there. You also get this gear stick with a wooden knob. And apart from that, you don't get much in here, but being the 80s, you didn't expect much either. You also had this, upholstery that is quite decent, by the way, if you consider that this car was made in the early 90s and you don't see any wear and tear. Actually, this upholstery, all the upholstery inside was done by a local shoe factory. A local shoe factory. In conclusion, though, this car, it was not all rosy and cozy for this car because, for instance, if you try to go and do research on this car, try to go on the internet, try to read about this car, you'll mainly find information about how displeased some Kenyans were with the final quality of this car. They go ahead to say things like the car was too heavy, the car was too slow, because mind you, this car, by the way, was able to achieve a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour during the test runs, and so they say it was slow. They also say that this is factual information, by the way, but they go ahead to point out that the car had problems with engine cooling, that it was overheating quite much. In fact, sources will say that a journey from here, Nairobi to Nakuru, you'd have to stop around 4 times to give the engine time to cool down. They also go ahead to say that the front of the car was not aesthetically pleasing. The front of the car was not beautiful to look at. The lights, the bumper, the logo itself, the metal grille, they were not so aesthetically pleasing to the eye. But you know what? For me, I don't see this as a huge issue, because if this car was to make it from here and move ahead from a prototype to a production car, this was just the beginning, in the sense that, you see, this is what Kenya had to offer. This is like our premature, not even premature, this is like our child. If your 4-year-old child right now brings you a photo and says, "Daddy, daddy, mommy, mommy, I've drawn a photo of our family," and all you can see is ticks and random circles on that paper, you don't discourage them. You don't discourage your child. You tell them, yes, you can make it in art. And I think this is the same case with this car. We are not supposed to discourage it. We're not supposed to dwell so much on the shortcomings of the car. But we're supposed to dwell on what could have been. This could have been a huge thing. And because of that, let's therefore look at the car for a while with patriotic music playing in the background to help us see that if only this car overcame a small problem of lack of funds, it could have been massive for us, massive for Kenya.
Tushangilie Kenya, taifa letu tukufu, Kenya tunayoipenda, Kenya nchi tunayoipenda.
Because the Pioneer was unable to make it to production levels, it now sits quietly in the warehouse of Numerical Machining Complex in Nairobi, and it is the job of engineers and technicians there to breathe life into it every few times a year.
Tushangilie